Eraserhead is not a horror movie in the classic sense of the term, but this dark, surreal trip into an industrial landscape and the existential horror found within provided plenty of nightmare fuel for generations of movie fans since its release in 1977. So, with the inevitable ball-busting comments out of the way, let's get into the wild mind of Mr. David Lynch, leading us to ask, what the happened to this horror movie? The debut film of the master of the weird and surreal, David Lynch, the mysteriously titled Eraserhead, lived up to Lynch's promise of delivering a dream of dark and troubling things that was further brought to life thanks to the iconic performance of Jack Nance as the film's high-haired, wide-eyed protagonist. While initial critical response was mixed, Eraserhead proved to be the catalyst that brought Lynch to Hollywood, where he continued to present his unique and often scary interpretation of the world as only seen through his eyes. Now a cult classic, Eraserhead continues to conjure more questions than answers. In 1971, a then 25-year-old Lynch moved from Philadelphia to Los Angeles to study filmmaking at the American Film Institute Conservatory. Accompanied by his then wife Peggy and their daughter Jennifer, Lynch would eventually decide to quit from the AFI after constant interference with his proposed first film, Gardenback. AFI Dean Frank Daniel asked Lynch to reconsider, which the ambitious young filmmaker did on the condition that his next project will not be interfered with. That project was Eraserhead. Filmed in black and white, Eraserhead tells the story of Henry Spencer, played by Jack Nance, a factory worker who lives in an industrial wasteland where he takes care of his newly born mutant child, whose cries throughout the night drive Henry to insanity. Lynch has cited numerous inspirations that shaped the tone and look of the most unusual Eraserhead. Foremost was his time living in a troubled neighborhood in Philadelphia, in which the violence and fear of that experience seared itself into Lynch's psyche. During his 1986 appearance on Brian Linehan's City Lights, Lynch said, quote,
Philadelphia, when I lived there, I can't say now for sure, but it was one of the sickest, most fearful, corrupt, frightening cities I've ever, set foot in, and especially the neighborhoods I was living in. And I guess I, feel the atmosphere of a place, the mood of a place, and it affects me, and I just felt I was living inside an ocean of fear. And I would see, so many things that supported that, and I guess this makes a little network in a person's psyche, and when you do get ideas, they come bobbing up through this network and are altered somewhat, and out comes Eraserhead.
Many have also stated that Eraserhead was inspired by Lynch's fear of fatherhood when his daughter was born with severely clubbed feet that required corrective surgery. While Lynch has denied this, Jennifer has claimed that her birth defects indeed were an inspiration for the film's themes. Lynch's reading as a film student also influenced the screenplay of Eraserhead, notably 1915 novella The Metamorphosis and Nikolai Gogol's 1836 short story The Nose. Lynch also stated in an interview with the Metro Silicon Valley that Eraserhead came together when he opened up a Bible, read one verse from it, and shut it. Exactly what verse it was, or if it came from the Old Testament or the New Testament, Lynch could not remember. Adding further context, during a 2007 BAFTA interview, Lynch said, quote, "Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film." When asked to elaborate, Lynch said in typical Lynchian manner, "No, I won't." With a script only 22 pages long, Lynch presented his Eraserhead project to the board at the AFI with the hopes of securing a grant. Several board members were strongly opposed to producing such a surrealist work, but they relented when AFI Dean Frank Daniel threatened to resign if Lynch did not receive the grant he requested. With the initial financing secure, next was the process of casting Eraserhead, especially the pivotal role of Henry Spencer. Lynch turned to AFI theater director David Lindman for any recommendation on who could play Henry. Of the two names Lindman provided, one was Jack Nance, a local theater actor in San Francisco. Said Lynch in his biography Room to Dream, quote, "Jack was absolutely perfect in every way. I've thought about who else could have played Henry. Everybody in the whole world I've seen since then, and there's nobody. It was fate. Jack was perfect and didn't mind waiting. He'd sit around thinking of so many things in his head, and he doesn't care what's going on around him." For Nance, acting in Eraserhead was a major departure for the stage performer, who is now making his screen debut for a student director, no less. whose unique and uncompromising vision was unlike many had seen at the time. In an interview with Starlog, Nance said, quote, "Eraserhead was the first real intense kind of thing I had ever done before the cameras, and Lynch had to really bring me down a lot and fix those moments, and when it was just right, he would shoot. That's the way Lynch works." Key to Nance's portrayal as Henry was the character's unique appearance that has become synonymous with the film and is engraved in cult fandom. Actress Charlotte Stewart, who played the role of Henry's depressed wife Mary, played a pivotal role in the creation of Henry's now iconic socket finger hairstyle. Said Lynch in his biography Room to Dream, quote, "When I met Jack, he had this kind of afro. We didn't want his hair to look freshly cut for the film, so about a week before we began shooting, I got a barber to come to the stables and he took Jack into the hayloft and cut his hair. I wanted it short on the sides, long on the top. That's the look, and it was very important. For some reason, that's just a thing I liked from the get-go in life." Jack's haircut was very important, but it wasn't until the first night of shooting when Charlotte rattled his hair that it really got there. It stood up way taller than I probably would have gone for, so she played a major role in the creation of Henry. It took Lynch 5 years to make Eraserhead, which he did in piecemeal fashion. The film's crew was very small and consisted of Lynch, sound designer Alan Splett, production manager and prop technician Doreen G. Small, and assistant director Catherine E. Colson. Cinematographer Herbert Cardwell died 2 years into production and was replaced by Frederick Elms. Shot in Los Angeles, on locations owned by the AFI, the making of Eraserhead often consisted of building and tearing down sets to make way for other work. The unexpected length of the production schedule resulted in an ever-widening fracture in his marriage, and pressure from his father and brother to abandon Eraserhead and focus on his duties as a family man. Nonetheless, Lynch persisted, and his passion project, resulting in his getting a divorce. This led Lynch to sleeping on set in Henry's bedroom for over a year. Production funds had also become scarce, with the AFI refusing to provide extra financing. Funds were donated by Lynch's childhood friend Jack Fisk and his wife Sissy Spacek. Colson, who worked as a waitress and donated her income, and Lynch himself took on a job delivering the Wall Street newspaper. Fellow AFI student and director Terrence Malick, who at this point had released the acclaimed crime drama Badlands, screened Eraserhead for a potential financial backer, who walked out of the screening calling the movie bull. One of the great mysteries of Eraserhead is the creation of Harold and Mary's mutant baby, a horrific prop that has haunted the nightmares of those who set their gaze upon it. To this day, Lynch has refused to reveal just how the deformed child was made, sometimes offering cryptid comments such as, "It was born nearby," or "Maybe it was found." Some have speculated the prop was constructed from either a skinned rabbit or the embalmed fetus of a calf. Nicknamed Spike by Nance, the prop had several working parts, with the neck, eyes, and mouth capable of independent operation. So secretive was Lynch about the creation of Spike that he blindfolded the projectionist who worked on the film's dailies when takes of the baby were playing. Eraserhead premiered on March 19, 1977 at the Filmex Film Festival in Los Angeles, with only 25 people in attendance. However, Eraserhead would go on to become a cult favorite midnight feature, with cinemas in Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco screening the film for year-long runs. Initial critical response to Eraserhead was mixed, with Variety stating that the film was a sickening bad taste exercise, while in a 1980 edition of the New York Times, critic Tom Buckley wrote that Eraserhead was murkily pretentious. As the years progressed, however, Eraserhead would go on to receive more positive reviews, with Roger Ebert stating that Eraserhead, quote, "creates an absolutely original, threatening universe." In a 5-star review, Peter Bradshaw, the chief film critic of The Guardian, wrote Eraserhead is a black and white nightmare of creeping horror and anxiety. In 2004, the film was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. The impact that Eraserhead had on Lynch's career was seismic. Mel Brooks saw the film and offered Lynch the chance to direct The Elephant Man, which Lynch accepted. George Lucas also asked Lynch to direct The Return of the Jedi, which Lynch did not accept. Swiss surrealist H.R. Giger cited Eraserhead as one of the greatest things he had ever seen. Meanwhile, Stanley Kubrick stated that Eraserhead was his favorite movie of all time, a declaration that Lynch said, quote, was a great moment for sure. For all of the professional and personal anguish that Lynch endured during the making of Eraserhead, in the end, this film about an American nightmare proved to be Lynch's key to fulfilling his ambition of not only becoming a filmmaker, but one who made movies on his own terms without compromise. Indeed, this film about dark and troubled things lived up to its promise and introduced the world to a filmmaker who delivered a filmography unlike any other.